ghosts, do they exist? Well, in the movies, they sure do. Hey everyone, I'm Jim and welcome back to My Movie Obsession, a place for film obsessors. If you constantly find yourself searching for the next movie to obsess over, you're probably in the right place. We all have a good ghost story, and here are 5 amazing ghost stories that you should watch this Halloween. So the first one is John Carpenter's The Fog, where he kind of took what he created in Halloween, that simple style, that simple everyday life kind of vibe, and he put ghosts in it. Crazy ghost zombies. So this movie is great. I really do love it. I mean, John Carpenter hates it. Come on, John. Come on, mate. And he also helped out on the set of the remake. Come on, John. I find it really, really scary and really, really creepy. And I feel like in this film, John Carpenter refined something that he created in Halloween, which was the creepy villain standing there. You know, instead of Michael Myers standing there, the slasher, you know, icon, just staring at you blankly, he decided to have ghost zombies staring at you from within fog, because the film is about this town that gets taken over by a fog, and these ghost zombies kind of rise up to gain their revenge on the town. And it's just incredible, these visuals of these ghost zombies. They look absolutely terrifying, and you know, they look like the stuff of nightmares, and it really has that looming feeling of that stare. That stare, I think John Carpenter really understands that one of the scariest things about horrifying characters is just that they'll stare at you at first. You know, they'll build up to when they take your ass out with the evil stare. I mean, making fog scary is an achievement, and they do it in this film. The fog is terrifying. The fog's coming for you. The fog is coming for you. It's going to take you out. And I love how this film is a ghost story. You know, it's literally a ghost story. It's like a story that children would tell each other on screen. So you literally feel like you're watching those stories you were told growing up on screen. It just has that slow pace that John Carpenter's famous for, where he builds up everything, he builds up the suspense, and it has terrifying killer ghost zombies, and I love that they're knocking on the door in this. Another thing which I think John Carpenter tapped into is, it's terrifying to think of an evil presence knocking at your door. These evil entities are lurking outside of people's properties, and you see them through the window, or you see a light underneath your door and someone's knocking to get in. That is great. John Carpenter knows how to tap into those regular fears we have. And, you know, The Fog is a really, really underrated film by John Carpenter himself even, so definitely watch The Fog this Halloween. The next one I'm going to talk about is The Shining. The Shining for me is at the top of ghost stories. It literally is one of the greatest movies of all time, but definitely one of the greatest horror films of all time, and ghost stories of all time. So Jack Nicholson, of course, has this iconic performance of this guy who moves in to a hotel with his wife and child in the middle of nowhere, and they really do well in this film to create that notion that this is nowhere. No one's coming to save you. You are stuck in a remote location with Jack Nicholson. Anything could happen. I think it's great how the child in this starts seeing things before everyone else, and I've always said that children in horror films are really underrated, because one of the great things about Halloween is Tommy Wallace sees Michael Myers before everyone else, and it gives him that boogeyman edge. In this film, the little kid Danny sees the ghosts before anyone else, and it just gives it that childlike terror. You know, that idea of, as a child, you fear these things, and no one would believe you if you told them, and it makes them an even more terrifying presence if you're just a little defenceless child and you see 2 little fucker twins down the corridor. These little twins were ingrained in my mind as a child. You know, to this day I still think that scene where Danny is cycling around the hotel, built up so well. You know, it's so slow paced, and then he just goes around a corner and they're standing there. It's wonderful. It's Stanley Kubrick showing that he understands horror. You know, just suspense of that scene, the unpredictability of that scene, and then just the reveal of that scene. Everything comes together. There are just morbid moments in this. There are just, you know, the suggestions. You know, the conversation that Jack has with the butler in the bathroom is terrifying. This is real terror. Stanley Kubrick knows how to convey terror in a bathroom with 2 dudes. You know, one's a ghost, one's a guy being driven insane by the ghost of the house, and it's petrifying. Jack Nicholson eventually himself becomes very, very scary, of course. A lot of people view his performance as hammy now, but I like it because it's Jack Nicholson. It's got that energy of Jack Nicholson, but there is a sense of scariness to it because it's real. You know, it's not he's not trying to be funny in the film. This is genuinely a guy who's had a mental breakdown, and you probably would be shouting expletives and acting like a crazy bastard if this was real. You know, everyone says that Jack Nicholson steals the show in this movie, but I really do think like the mansion itself is a character, and the ghosts themselves are characters in this, that you just feel them looming. Even when you don't see them on screen, they are looming. This ghostly shroud is hanging over this hotel. And I really think that Shelley Duvall's performance is underrated in this, because a lot of people have a go at her because she's screaming inanely, but I really do feel like in moments you really do feel her fear, especially where you know, Jack Nicholson's chasing her. You do feel her fear, and a woman probably would get hysterical in this situation. Anyone would. So I love The Shining. It's the granddaddy of ghost story movies, and definitely check out The Shining this October, because it's time to once again watch Jack Nicholson go mental for 2 hours. What better way to spend an evening? The Changeling is a wonderful ghost story which I think is not known by a lot of people, and it really deserves checking out. It's about this guy who moves into this mansion, and he basically realises he's not alone and the mansion is haunted. And it's a really, really, really well done horror film. The Changeling, you know, it exchanges showing loads and having loads of jump scares for a slow paced suspense, and making this mansion beautiful and evocative but terrifying. You know, if I was walking around this mansion, I'd be admiring the decor, you know, walking around and looking at how lovely the place was while shitting my pants. It's a beautiful mansion, but it's terrifying. It's sinister, you know, it's haunted, and you know, it's creepy, and the mansion is, just like in The Shining, a character all to itself in this film. You know, it really does reinforce the fact that if you're alone in a gigantic house, that's one of the scariest things you can imagine. The Changeling has a fantastic soundtrack. It's spooky, it's beautiful, it's creepy, but it's very evocative and sets the tone for the film. The soundtrack is one of the best things about it, and that's saying a lot, considering this is a fantastic movie. If you want a slow-paced ghost story, which really does go back to the basics, where it just draws you in and draws you in and draws you in before scaring the shit out of you, The Changeling is the movie for you this October. Insidious is a movie I think which gets a bit underrated. Lots of people don't really rate Insidious or James Wan. Not a lot of people do, but a lot of people just don't really like Insidious, and I love the film. There are certain moments in Insidious which is about a boy who falls into a coma because a ghost is trying to take over his body and just terrorises his parents in the house. There are so many moments in the film which stuck with me and creeped me out big time. You know, there's a moment with a baby monitor where there's a noise on the baby monitor. The woman runs upstairs, goes into the baby's bedroom, wait for it, and there's a fucker standing behind the crib. What the fuck? That shit me up big time. It's what I really like in horror, which is, you know, you don't have to have him jump out, you don't have to, you know, it's just the looming, the presence. What the fuck was he doing standing behind a baby's crib? Christ. That's what Insidious is full of. Those weird moments, those out of place moments, those random scares, which he understands. You know, you can tell James Wan must have been influenced by John Carpenter and a lot of those directors, because he knows how to make the random scary. You know, he doesn't intentionally, I mean, there's loads of jump scares in the film, but a lot of the scariest moments are just the randomness of the absurdity of the looming characters that just make no sense as to why they're doing this. You know, it's just the moments that throw you off. That's what Insidious is all about. There's also a fantastic moment with a little boy ghost in this film where she's walking up to a house and she sees a little boy dancing in the middle of the room to a really creepy song which plays. This song shit me up, and it's a positive, happy song, but it's fucking terrifying. You know, and this song plays at the end where the evil entity is shown, and you know, this song, again, James Wan knows, because it's like a merry little number. It's a nice little song, but if you put it in this film, it makes it random and morbid and freaky. Insidious is all about misdirection. There are conventional jump scares in it, but I do really think it's got some really strong moments. The Conjuring is the final one I want to talk about. The Conjuring is fantastic, it really is. I think The Conjuring 2 lost a lot of the sparkle with this first one. This first one feels like a 70s horror movie in a lot of ways. You know, it feels like The Changeling in a lot of ways. It has more jump scares, it's more up to date, but it does feel like that in a lot of ways. There's so many moments in this where they hit the mark just right of before they throw the jump scare in there or throw the scare in there, you know. And I love the scene early on where the little girls are in the bedroom and this ghost starts pulling at the little girl while she's in bed, and then the little girl says she can see something in the corner of the room and she's absolutely petrified. This little girl does an amazing job acting, and it's just those moments, that's what scares me about ghosts, you know, the terror of how helpless you are against them, because you don't know what they're going to do, you don't know why they're doing what they're doing, and if they just stare at you from across the room, that's as bad as them doing something to you. There's such a build up in this of these ghosts fucking with these people, you know. Obviously there's that moment in the trailer where the ghost claps behind the woman, which is really, really, really freaky, basically, because it's a direct attempt by that ghost to say, right, I'm going to scare the shit out of this woman and I don't care. And of course it has Ed and Lorraine Warren as characters, who in real life, I don't know what to make of them, you know, they were ghost hunters. Were they trustworthy? I don't know, but this film obviously presents them as trustworthy, and you have a lot of sympathy for them because they're telling the truth, they know, they're trying their best, but they don't know the answers either. You know, so they're just as kind of helpless as the family, but they have this extra sense, so they can fight back in their own way, but they're still underdogs. And it just does turn into a battle of wits between the Warrens and the ghosts. It's a good tribute to a real life ghost hunting couple who people aren't sure about, but it's nice to give them their movie where what they claimed is presented as true, because if they were bullshitting in real life, they were still an interesting couple of public figures, weren't they? So let's give them a movie which actually shows them battling ghosts, even if it was all in their heads in real life, or it was all about the moolah. So there's 5 brilliant ghost story movies that you should watch this October. Thanks for watching. I'm Jim and I'm obsessed with movies, and this channel is a place for film obsessives. So if you enjoy my content, please like the video, please subscribe to the channel and turn on that notification bell so you see more of my content. And after October I'm going to go back to what this channel is focused on, which is superhero movie reviews and retro movie reviews. But there will be a lot of horror content going forward as well, because I'm a big horror fan, so I might look at some retro horror movies. And I want to do more with the Halloween franchise. I'm going to be ranking the Halloween movies, including Halloween 2018, on the 31st, so look out for that. So thanks again for watching everyone. I'm Jim and I'm obsessed with movies, and I'll see you next time.